The flute glass trembled in my hand, not from the breeze, but from the weight of the eyes watching me. "Here you go, sweetheart," my stepmother cooed, her voice so thick with honey it almost drowned the venom underneath. "Try the rose. It's a special vintage. You'll love it." I forced a smile. "Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos? And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us what would you do in this situation? Be honest, tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin." The glass was cold. Too cold. The condensation slid down my fingers like sweat. Behind her, guests mingled under the cream and gold canopy stretched across her prized garden. Hydrangeas bloomed in perfect symmetry beside the fountain that she bragged cost more than a semester at NYU. Laughter bubbled from the patio. The string quartet played something cheerful and rehearsed. A server walked past with a tray of crab puffs. Everything was flawless, except the moment I looked into her eyes.
Nancy.
My stepmother. She never touched me, never raised her voice. But she didn't have to. Her power wasn't in what she did, it was in what she could get others to do, while she smiled like your best friend's mom. I lifted the glass, chin raised like she expected. I wasn't dumb. I had grown up in this house, knowing there were rooms I wasn't allowed in. Dinners I wasn't invited to. Lies I wasn't supposed to hear but did. Still, I didn't expect what came next. "Miss Jordan." A whisper. Urgent. A hand lightly touched my elbow. I turned, startled. It was Esme, the housekeeper. Older, quiet, and invisible like all the help in Nancy's world. She leaned in close, breath shaky. "Don't drink that. Don't trust anything from her." I froze. Esme's eyes flicked to the glass, then to Nancy, then back to me. "I mean it. Just fake it. Trust me, please," she whispered, then melted away like she was never there. I blinked, heart knocking hard against my ribs. Nancy was still watching. I smiled and took a pretend sip. Tasted nothing. She smiled wider. I let the wine slide away from my lips, never touching my tongue. Then, in one fluid motion, I turned and made my way toward the guests. And there she was, Tabitha Whitmore, Nancy's favorite. A senator's daughter, all pearls and politics and two tight smiles. Nancy hovered around her like a bee to honey whenever she visited. I'd seen the texts once. Tabitha was her golden ticket to something bigger. I walked up with a polite tilt of my head. "Sorry," I said, voice bright. "The waitstaff swamped. Nancy wanted you to try this." Tabitha blinked, then smiled. "Ah, that's sweet of her." She took the glass. I didn't stop her. I stood there and watched. And that's when everything started to unravel. Tabitha took one sip. Just one. Then paused. She lowered the glass slowly, brow furrowed, her lips tightening into something unreadable. Nancy appeared a beat later, like she'd been monitoring from the shadows. "Darling, you liked it, didn't you?" Tabitha didn't answer right away. She set the glass down on a nearby table, delicately, carefully, like it was poison. Her eyes were now on Nancy. "Did you think I wouldn't recognize it?" Nancy's smile twitched. "I recognize what?" "You served this to my father at the gala 2 years ago. I remember, because it's not wine." Her voice cut through the music like a knife. "It's diluted phenobarbital. I had it tested after he collapsed." Silence. The entire party held its breath. My fingers dug into the hem of my dress. Nancy's face didn't fall. It cracked. "That's ridiculous," she said. "Why would I?" Tabitha turned to the guests now gathering, eyes burning with accusation. "I know what you are, and I'm going to make sure everyone else does, too." Nancy laughed, too loud, too sharp. "Are you suggesting I tried to poison you at my own party? You didn't know it was going to be me drinking it, did you?" Tabitha said, voice icy. My chest heaved. I stepped back, and the distance gave me clarity. Esme stood near the back of the garden now, watching, waiting, like she knew this moment would come. Tabitha looked at me. "Who gave you the glass?"
My voice was calm, steady.
"Nancy." The crowd turned. Even the string quartet had stopped playing. Nancy looked at me like I'd just stabbed her in the stomach with a butter knife. You offered it yourself, I said louder now, in front of everyone. And just like that, the facade cracked wide open. People began whispering. Phones were pulled from purses. Eyes flicked from Nancy to Tabitha to me. Faces turned. Judgments formed. I could feel her panic bleeding through her flawless makeup. She reached for my arm, but I stepped back. That's when the real chaos began. The senator himself appeared, security detail at his side. Apparently, Tabitha had sent him a photo of the glass before taking a sip.
Smart.
Controlled. The man walked straight to Nancy, said something low and sharp. Nancy's expression collapsed into something I had never seen before.
Fear.
The kind she used to inject into my veins when I was 16 and dared to ask about my real mom. She was losing everything, and I hadn't even begun. The garden was no longer filled with music. Only silence and the low thrum of whispered disbelief. Nancy didn't speak. She couldn't. Her mouth was parted slightly, like she wanted to say something clever, something elegant. But all that came out was a shaky breath. The senator didn't even look at her again. He turned to his daughter, put a hand on her back, and said, "We're leaving." Tabitha nodded, but before she turned, her eyes landed on me. "Thank you," she said softly. I didn't know what to say. I just nodded. They walked out without another word. Their exit echoed louder than any scene Nancy had ever rehearsed in her precious garden. Then the voices started. Did she really? Was that real? Is she in trouble? Nancy spun toward the crowd. Everyone, please. There's been a misunderstanding, an outrageous one. Her tone snapped back to her usual social charm, but it was off, just enough for everyone to notice. People weren't smiling now. They were stepping away. I didn't move. I just watched. She turned toward me, her eyes burning. What did you do? I did what I was taught, I said calmly. I observed. I adapted. Her nostrils flared. This was your plan all along?
No, I said.
But you've been slipping for a while, Nancy. You thought you were the smartest woman in the room. You never realized everyone else stopped playing your game. Esme appeared beside me again. Quiet as always.
Calm.
Nancy's lips curled. You think you're clever, don't you? You think this makes you strong. No, I said, tilting my head. But it makes me free. And it hit her. The realization that her grip was gone. All the favors she traded. All the secrets she buried under expensive stone patios and rose bushes. It was all unraveling. I stepped forward, slow, steady. The same way she used to walk toward me in the hallway when I'd gotten too bold as a teenager. But I wasn't a girl anymore. You've spent years pretending this was your empire, I said quietly, just for her. But you built it on fear and lies.
And today?
You ran out of both. Her hand twitched like she wanted to slap me, but she didn't.
Couldn't.
Too many eyes. I turned my back to her and walked away. Not fast. Not triumphantly. Just free. And behind me, I heard a sound I hadn't heard in years. Nancy choking on her silence. The garden faded behind me, but the heat of the moment clung to my skin like sweat. I didn't go to my car. Not yet. Something pulled me back, something I didn't fully understand. Esme walked beside me, silent, until we reached the edge of the rose trellis. That's when she spoke. There's something you need to see. I stopped.
Now.
She nodded. It's about your mother. My chest tightened. I hadn't heard anyone speak of my mom in years. Not since Nancy started acting like she'd always been the one running the house. Esme glanced around, then led me through the back kitchen entrance. The sounds of the party, what was left of it, were distant now. We passed polished counters, trays of untouched hors d'oeuvres, rows of crystal glassware. Everything was spotless, as if chaos hadn't just bloomed in the garden. Esme led me to a small storage room. She reached behind a row of boxes and pulled something loose from the back wall. A manila envelope. It had my name written on it. I stared. What is this? Your mom gave it to me the week before Esme paused. Before she passed. She said if Nancy ever got too close to destroying you, I was to give it to you. I took it with trembling fingers. Inside were photos, letters, medical reports, legal forms, and something else, a sealed letter. My name written in my mother's handwriting. I sat down slowly on a nearby stool, my knees barely holding me up. Esme stood nearby, but said nothing. She knew this wasn't her moment. I opened the letter, and what I read flipped my entire life upside down. Nancy hadn't just married my father after my mom passed. She'd been around long before. Too close. Too involved. The timeline didn't match the story I'd always been told. There were love notes, hidden receipts, one even dated weeks before my mother's accidental fall. My breath hitched. She lied to everyone. Esme nodded once, sadly. And she covered it well. Too well. I looked up, something sharp forming in my voice now. Why didn't you show me this sooner? You weren't ready, she whispered. And she still had too much control. I stood, gripping the envelope tight. She doesn't anymore. Esme's eyes softened. Then maybe now's the time to tell the world who Nancy really is.
I didn't sleep that night.
I couldn't. I sat on the floor of my apartment with every light on. Esme's envelope open beside me. Letters spread across the carpet. Evidence scattered like ash. The deeper I read, the colder I became. My mother had known. Not just about Nancy and my father's affair, but about the threats. The manipulation, the isolation. She'd written it all down. One letter, dated 6 days before her death, said, "If anything happens to me, don't believe the staircase. Don't believe the accident. Believe what I've left behind." I gripped the paper so tightly I almost tore it in half. My mother didn't fall. She was pushed. Maybe not physically. Maybe not with hands. But Nancy had been behind it.
Somehow. Some way.
She broke her. She cornered her. And my father? He let it happen. I stared at his signature on a property transfer document Nancy had slipped into the folder. One that quietly handed over assets weeks after my mom died. He was complicit. My father, the man who used to tuck me in at night, who gave me rides to school and promised to protect me, had watched Nancy erase my mother like she was a smudge on his reputation. And he'd said nothing. By morning, I wasn't tired. I was ready. I dressed in silence, grabbed the folder, and drove back to the estate. The garden was empty now. The party tent gone. What remained were trampled flowers and empty glasses like ghosts of fake smiles. I didn't bother knocking. The front door swung open with my old key. I half expected Nancy to come flying down the staircase, demanding to know what I was doing. But it wasn't her who greeted me. It was my father. He was in his robe, coffee in hand, looking every bit the retired executive, comfortable, tired, full of guilt he still refused to name. "Jordan," he blinked. "It's early." I stepped inside. "We need to talk." He sighed, already on the defensive. "If this is about the party, it's about Mom." That froze him. He set the coffee down on the hallway table. "What about her?" I held up the folder. "I know." He stared at it. "Know what?" I took a breath that burned on the way out.
About Nancy.
About the affair. About what she did to Mom. About how you let it happen. Silence. A long, terrifying silence. His face paled. "Where did you get that?" "Does it matter?" I said. "It's real. It's all real. And I'm done pretending." He turned away, walked a few steps into the living room. "You don't understand." "No," I snapped, following him. "I didn't. But now I do. She manipulated you. She used you. And you let her tear this family apart. She saved this family," he shot back. My laugh was bitter. "She saved herself. And you helped her bury the truth." He turned then, eyes flaring. "You think it was easy? Your mother was." "Don't," I said, voice low. "Don't you dare blame her." He looked away. She was slipping. She was fragile. She was scared, I said. "Of Nancy."
Of you.
Of what was happening. And instead of helping her, you handed her world to a snake in pearls. He didn't argue. He didn't have to. He knew I was right. I tossed the folder onto the couch. I'm taking it public. The letters. The reports. All of it. He flinched. You'll destroy the family name. I stared at him. You destroyed it the day you chose silence over truth. Footsteps echoed on the stairs.
Nancy.
She stood halfway down, wrapped in a silk robe, face bare, mouth tight. Don't worry, I said, turning toward her. You're going to get your turn. Her eyes narrowed. You're bluffing. I picked up the envelope. Won a bet. The press got the story by noon. I didn't give it to a tabloid. I wasn't interested in trashy headlines or scandal buzz. I gave it to a respected investigative journalist who'd written exposés on corrupt families and covered-ups in high society. She read every document, verified every detail, and then she said, "You're not just telling the story, you're ending theirs." Nancy tried to spin it first. Of course she did. She called it a vendetta. She cried on camera. She clutched pearls and lied through her teeth about a troubled stepdaughter with emotional issues.
But the receipts didn't lie.
Not when letters from my mother laid it all out. Not when financial transfers matched dates. Not when others, like Esme, began coming forward. One housekeeper. Then another. Then my mother's old friend from college who had been pushed away. They all had stories. Little moments of cruelty. Pieces that never made sense until now. Nancy unraveled live, under the lights she once controlled. The senator's daughter? She wasn't quiet either. She made a public statement supporting the investigation, confirming what she'd tasted that day. And that her father, now with his own team of lawyers, was pressing charges for a previous event Nancy had always covered up. I watched it all unfold with an eerie calm. But the part that stunned me? My father didn't defend her. Not once. After our last conversation, he disappeared from public view. Not even a whisper of support. I later learned he'd quietly filed for separation. That was how I knew he wasn't just guilty, he was finally ashamed. Nancy lost everything. Her clubs, her charities, her polished reputation. The estate was put up for sale to cover legal costs. I drove past it once. The garden was overgrown, the fountain dry. No more parties. No more masks. She called me one night. Blocked number. I picked up without speaking. Her voice was hollow. You ruined my life. No, I said calmly. You did that when you ruined hers.
Click.
That was the last time I ever heard from Nancy. Months passed. Esme retired. I sent her to Florida with a house paid in full. She cried when I handed her the keys. My father never contacted me again. And honestly, I was fine with that. I kept one letter from my mom, just one. The last one. If you're reading this, it means the truth survived. And so did you. That's all I ever wanted. I framed it, put it above my writing desk in the small townhouse I bought, one no one else paid for, or gifted, or held over me. It was mine, just like my life now. Nancy once taught me fear by smiling while pulling strings. But I taught her something better, that when you spend your life playing queen, you should never forget who's holding the match.